What's up, it's Cinema Shogun here, and have any of you all been paying attention to what's going on over in Sudan? I won't pretend to know the technicalities of it all, but long story short, we have two warring factions going against each other, and innocent American citizens are caught in the crossfire. Now, even if you did not know anything about this situation happening, chances are, if you have been paying attention to how horribly things have been running in this country over the past couple of years, then you probably could already guess that this is a complete and utter mess. It reminds me of the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. I mean, our country can't even properly keep a train on its tracks anymore. So how do we expect to properly evacuate thousands of American citizens from a war zone? Now, I do know that U.S. Special Forces, they were able to evacuate the embassy. They were able to evacuate a lot of politicians and diplomats and their family, but we got regular U.S. citizens over there that are stranded as we speak, and things are getting crazy. Hundreds of people are already dead. Bodies are littered all over the roads in this area, and as if things could not get worse, one of these factions, if you will, one of these militias, they've taken over a laboratory that contains a bunch of deadly viruses because someone thought it was a bright idea to put a laboratory full of deadly viruses in the middle of Sudan, where they're constantly having issues and conflicts. Every couple of years, there's a new coup or whatever, a military coup or something going on. But no, this is where we're going to put a special laboratory where we do experiments on viruses. This is a great place for it. Well, of course, it only took a few days into the conflict for one of these sides to decide to, let's go ahead and take this lab over. We're going to take this lab over full of deadly viruses, and we're going to turn it into a military base. They already kicked out all of the technicians, all of the scientists, and everyone. And now we have a freaking militia, in control of a deadly laboratory filled to the brim with deadly diseases. This is a scary situation. And I think it's idiotic that we would even have labs like that in places that are known for problems, if you will. Like, there's always so much unrest in these areas of the world. Therefore, we shouldn't have labs studying deadly viruses in these corners of the world. But it is what it is. Let's go ahead and hop into this article so we can find out what's happening. The World Health Organization warns of a big biological risk at seized Sudanese lab. Thousands are desperately fleeing. The chaos engulfing the Sudan capital of Khartoum. Listen, pause. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to mispronounce a lot of the words here. I don't know how to properly pronounce these people's names or the names of their cities. So I don't need you in my comment section trying to correct me because I'm not going to get it right. Deal with it. Let's go forward. I'm sorry. I'm just tired of that all the time. The chaos engulfing the capital of Sudan became significantly more threatening on Tuesday when one of the warring factions seized control of a national health lab that contains biological material, according to a UN official who called the development extremely dangerous for the entire globe. Dr. Nima Saeed Abid, the World Health Organization's representative in Sudan, said that one of the parties fighting for control of Sudan, he didn't name which one, kicked out all of the technicians from the lab where measles and polio and other dangerous samples are being held. This is extremely Extremely dangerous, he told the UN. There is a huge biological risk associated with such an occupation. Thousands of Americans, Europeans, and Africans were already fleeing from Sudan as a new 3-day truce that came into effect late Monday did little to ease the violence overtaking the nation of 46 million people, where about 1/3 of the population depends on humanitarian aid. They stop only when they run out of ammunition, said Amin Ashik, a resident of the nearby city of Omdurman. The departure of diplomats, aid workers, and other foreigners are terrifying signs for many people in Sudan that international powers expect the mayhem to worsen. Explosions and gunfire echoed across the city despite the ceasefire negotiated by the United States and Saudi Arabia, the latest of several declared but mostly ignored since the recent fighting broke out about April 15th. Hundreds have already died and thousands have been wounded. Yasir Arman, chairman of the Sudan's People's Liberation Movement, urged both sides to recognize the truth and to allow the people of Sudan to honor and bury their dead. There are corpses scattered in the streets, patients who do not find treatment, and there are water and electricity cuts, Arman said in a social media post that urged the international community to help restore infrastructure and provide generators to hospitals. So, as I was saying, the situation's raging out of control. Do I expect it to get any better? No. Okay, we've watched this area of the world go through complete chaos throughout the entire course of our lifetimes. There's never a time where there isn't something crazy going on over there. So that doesn't surprise me. The reason why this is a big deal is because one of these militias took over this lab with these deadly diseases inside. Now, I want you to really think about this situation. It's scary enough that in the middle of a military conflict, that one military, if you will, or one army, decided to take over one of these labs. But when you think of it, it's not like this is a modernized military, okay? These aren't high-ranking officials of the U.S. government or China or Russia coming in and taking over this health lab. No, this is a militia off the streets, okay? These aren't highly educated people. No, these are random dudes with AK-47s that they bought off of a truck. You know what I mean? It's not like... It would be less concerning for me if I knew that they had people who understood the seriousness of this situation. But no, we have raging militias who are killing women and children in the street, now taking over a lab filled to the brim with deadly diseases and viruses. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to happen. I want you to keep this in mind. I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but think of the possibilities here. 6 months from now, if they try to say, oh, there's a new crazy virus out here, where do you think it's came from? And part of me wonders, are they going to use this as an excuse to roll out something else? Are they going to roll out another one of their beer bugs and they're going to blame it on Sudan? Oh, yeah, well, the Sudan militia took over the super top secret health lab where we keep all of our diseases and viruses in Sudan. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not saying this is going to happen, but don't be surprised if 6 months from now, we got this new crazy disease out here and everyone struggles to find out what's going on, where did this come from, how did it start? So yeah, this is a scary situation for me. I think it's a scary situation for everyone involved. I just hope that the rebels, the militia of random people who took over this place, understand what they're doing. Not only are you putting your life and your health at risk, you are risking the life and the health of thousands and thousands of others. And to be honest, there is always so much turmoil and conflicts happening over there that I wasn't even going to touch on this news story, but I felt like it was necessary. Because I feel like there's a possibility that 7 months down the road, 9 months, 6 months down the road, that we may want to look back on this information and remember that, oh yeah, remember that militia took over the super top secret health lab where they held freaking, viruses and stuff? You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that the situation's obviously going to get worse. The fighting's going to get worse. I'm hoping that they keep this part of it under control. Get the hell out of that lab. And then you also have to worry about, okay, if you're going to take over this lab, and what they've done, they took over the laboratory. All of the viruses and all of that stuff, it's still in the lab. They kicked out all of the technicians, all of the scientists, and they've basically effectively turned this lab holding all of these deadly viruses, they've turned it into a makeshift military base. Now, how long before a conflict breaks out at this laboratory from both sides? And if it does, are we going to see some of these deadly diseases and viruses escape this lab? It's not a far-fetched thing to think about. Also, when you got a militia full of pissed off people fighting a war right now, I mean, do you want them having all of these viruses at their disposal? Who's to say that they don't unleash something on purpose? You know what I mean? So it's weird how little conflicts, and I call it a little conflict. It's not a little conflict. It's a major conflict, but it's a little conflict when you view it, as opposed to things like what's happening in Ukraine and stuff. But it's crazy how a conflict like this one, a conflict that a lot of you all probably didn't even know was happening, it's crazy how little conflicts like this could have lasting effects on our entire world. Like, there is a huge possibility that something escapes this lab, and that whatever escapes this lab, you fall ill from it. That's very possible. It's not far-fetched to believe. Especially when you have this military conflict happening. You got thousands of people over there stranded, all trying to leave the country. So if something breaks out of this lab, and it's not hard for these viruses to break out of a lab. It's not like these militia members are going to follow the proper safety protocols while walking through the hallways, closing doors, dealing with sensitive materials. So it's very easy for something like this to escape. And if it does escape, it may escape and, get some people sick who are trying to evacuate this country. Because right now we got thousands and thousands and thousands of people pouring out of Sudan. And they're going to America, they're going to various places in Europe, they're traveling all across the world. So this is a recipe for disaster. Not only do you have this untrained militia that just took over this lab, you got thousands of people stranded in this war zone, and if God forbid something escapes this lab, it's going to spread all around the world because everyone's already evacuating this area anyway. So hopefully that does not happen. That is worst case scenario. Keep in mind, I'm not telling you all this is going to happen. This is worst case scenario. But the possibilities of this happening are very high right now. So hopefully something gives. But I'll keep my eye on the situation and I'll let you all know if there's any updates in the future. Let me know what you think, though, down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.